Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out how I can be healthy depending on the tan I've got. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Saturday. Superstitious Saturday. What better way to help ring in the new year, even though we're 2 days in now, than with the first TED Excellence of the new year. What did I choose? Well, I chose Black Healing in White Space. Now, I don't know if white space is different than outer space or office space. I don't know. And honestly, I'm already confused, but we'll find out together, as we always do. But who is joining me in this togetherness today? Why, that would be Ethan Robbins, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. A.A. Ron, hello. Or Aaron. Check Your Logic, hello. Dead Gandalf, hello. Raziel, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Zalbla, hello. Let's see, who's next? Oh, a lot of people were talking. Mike R, hello. Tandamar, hello. Zach Osborne, hello. St. Michael, hello. Lots of people were talking amongst themselves. What's his face, McWhatnot, hello. Lady Gopher, hello. Firmly Rod Line, hello. Dina B, hello. Black Belt for Christ, hello. Who else? Said hello. And then chat jump. Dang it, chat, stay still. Attack Alpaca, hello. Wade Wilson, hello. Mike Savage, Blar. Green Death, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Let's see, who else? CM, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Robert Lapine, hello. Big Dave, hello. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Psionic Dreams, hello. Mirai Vegeta, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. That One Servant of Satania, hello. Buddy C. Buddy, hello. Jake Tunseth, hello. Darren Thompson, hello. Mr. Tickle Trunk, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. And I think if I miss someone, I apologize, guys. I'm running a little bit on fumes today. I didn't sleep too well last night, so if I'm a little slow on the uptake, that might be why. Or I might just be scribe. But regardless, yeah. So Black Healing in White Space. I'm dying to find out what it is that we're going to learn today. So get your bingo cards ready. Today's bingo card is bingo card B. B as in barbarian, because why not use that word today? That was the results of the Twitter poll. If you'd like to take part in the voting for the next bingo card, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. But with all that being said, let's start off with a few seconds for sound. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed.
I had an unfair amount of spoiled brat rage towards my parents in my late teens.
Okay. Spoiled brat rage. Okay, so you were a spoiled brat? Okay. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. Asian Hippie says, sounds good. Zalbla, it was unfair. Zeke Weiss, all good. All right. So spoiled brat rage. And wow, look at that stage. That is, that's an interesting color, blue and lighting, and not quite sure what the geodesic thing on the back end there is, but okay.
And it was because I felt they had whitewashed my childhood.
Okay.
By constantly putting me in white spaces.
By constantly putting you in white spaces. All right. Well, if you're going to reduce people down to race that quickly, I'm almost inclined to circle makes something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. But we haven't actually heard her argument yet. But I will say she's already playing victim. So free space, plays victim. Also childhood or family anecdote. So we got 3 squares already. Holy cats, guys. 3 squares and we're not even in. So let's keep going.
And what I wasn't ready to deal with at that point was I wasn't mad at my parents for giving me access to these spaces. I was mad at the kid I became in those spaces. And
you were mad at the kid you became in those spaces, those white spaces. I'm going to need some definition on what you mean by a white space. I'm curious to know.
And I don't think my parents fully understood that I was struggling because they didn't grow up like I did.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you grow up compared to them?
They grew up Black in Nashville, Tennessee during the peak of the civil rights movement. And they were already teenagers by the time Nashville started to integrate schools. September 9th, 1957 marked the first day that Black and white kids were able to go to school together.
So your parents grew up in a place and a time where there was legal racist segregation. Okay. And they didn't understand where you were coming from with feeling that your childhood was whitewashed because they put you in white spaces. I have a feeling your parents witnessed and experienced more hardship when it came to racism growing up than you ever did. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Do tell.
The very next day, on September 10th, one of those schools exploded.
Yeah.
Thanks to 100 sticks of dynamite.
Yep.
And clearly a strong will to keep things the same.
That's one way of putting it, I suppose. Yes, back then, integration was opposed by many people, sometimes violently, unfortunately. It was a very dark time in our history. It's true. Sometimes change causes people to do stupid things. And
I often think about the bravery and foresight those parents had to have enrolling their kids in those schools because it was a choice.
Yeah.
And they had already experienced the threats of intimidation just at the mere thought of putting their Black kids at those white schools.
Yeah. And gosh, you never had to go through that. Where are we going?
Forget about the spitting and the taunting and the rock throwing.
Okay.
They had to physically endure
as
they walked into the building that first day with their children.
Yeah.
I've never properly honored my parents for having a front row seat to that level of indignity for most of their childhood.
Okay. So, all right. Well, okay. Credit where credit is due thus far. She's looking back on her attitude as a kid and decrying it. She understands now better what her parents probably went through when they were growing up versus her. Okay. It sounds like maybe, and I'm being generous here, maybe she's grown out of bad habits. Let's see if that persists.
So now as a parent and as an adult, I understand what they were trying to do.
Okay.
They were trying to give me and my sister the keys to all the doors that were locked for them growing up.
Okay. But you've classified those as white spaces. Why is that?
And places, towns, schools that are often deemed high opportunity, well, they're also often predominantly white.
And that means what to you?
And sometimes always white.
And that means what to you?
All white. And adapting in those spaces isn't a new phenomenon for Black folks. Listen, I code switch like I breathe.
You code switch like you breathe. So you're disingenuous naturally?
Code switching is slipping in and out of an alternate way of speaking, depending on your surroundings.
Yeah, so like I talk a certain way at work, whereas I probably wouldn't talk that same way if I was among friends. Is that what you mean?
And it's a survival skill for Black folks. And W.E. Du Bois spoke about that double consciousness all the way back in 1904.
1904? Wow, 1904. Yeah, the sentiments and thinking of 1904. Wow. Do you have anything else you'd like to dredge up from the last century? Oh, wait, you already did that. Okay.
He spoke about the American and the Negro. Two souls in one body.
Yeah, and so long as people promote the idea that you're strangers in a strange land simply on the basis of your skin color, I'm pretty sure we're never going to get over the whole notion that you believe everybody's racist and that you exist as some sort of monolith separate from the rest of us in some separate reality or something. So you keep on doing you, I guess.
And we speak about that duality often in my home.
Uh-huh.
I've been married for 21 years to a Black man who never dims his light.
What? So what? What does that say about him? What has that got to do with anything? Thank you, Matt Barnes. She's doing it now. She's afraid of the sound crew. Look out.
And Blackness has come up and taken a full place in our lives.
I can't even imagine.
In the lives of our 5 children.
Yeah.
And to deal with that, we try to submerge them in the art, in the books, and the truth and the history of just who they are, which, as tragic as the stories are in this country for Black folks, they're also so gloriously triumphant.
Race is not an identity. Who your children are is not defined by their race. The only people who believe that race is an element of identity are racists. I've said this anecdote before, and I'll probably say it thousands of times in the future. Back in the 90s, I read a book in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing. It was called The Gathering Storm, and it was written by a couple of guys from the Southern Poverty Law Center back when they weren't so terrible. And they recorded the history of how things led up to the militia movement and Timothy McVeigh and all that stuff. And they talked about the white identity movement, which was just a rebranded KKK, effectively. White supremacy put in as some sort of family values, Christian values thing, but also called the white identity movement. And so I learned at a very young age that the idea of racial identitarianism is not a wise philosophy in life. So every time I hear someone talking about learn who you are based on your race, doesn't matter what race we're talking about, I hearken back to that book and the scary, scary people who promoted identity based on skin color. Can't help it here. Couldn't help it before. Anyway.
And exposing my kids to those truths have given them the Black consciousness that I was clearly lacking growing up.
So your parents who lived through and survived through the civil rights movement lacked Black consciousness. But you now instill Black consciousness in your children. And this is a good thing. So you want to honor your parents for what they went through in attempting in their way to oppose racism, to honor them by instilling in your children Black consciousness and delineating the world into white spaces and non-white spaces. I'm getting images of drinking fountains for some reason.
When I was 11, my mother let me know she had enrolled me in this exclusive and elite dance school. But what I heard is I was going to be living my best fame dreams with Leroy and the gang. So we ran out and we got a blue leotard. It was electric blue because it was the late 80s. And slinky earrings.
Yeah.
And when I got there, my mom coated me in more baby oil because, you know, Black women don't do ashy.
Okay.
And they pointed me in the direction of my first class, and my mother was off. So I was alone. And when I opened the doors, my heart fell.
Let me guess. Let me guess. There were boys in there. Right? There were boys in there. I bet you got scared. Right? It couldn't have been something else. Right?
She had enrolled me in a classical ballet school.
Oh, okay. I don't know where my mind was going. I don't know why I thought it had something to do with, you know, the the natural state of people that might be in the room with you or something. I don't. Okay. Classical. She didn't tell you this ahead of time. You had no say or foreknowledge of what your mother was enrolling you in. Okay. All right. Classical.
And there they all were, on time, in white, identical in black leotard, pale pink tights, hair pinned up perfectly in a bun. Meanwhile, I looked like a backup dancer in a Rick James video.
So you and your mother didn't do any kind of research or ask any questions or ask about dress code or anything, style guide stuff for this school? She enrolled you in an elite school and did no research and didn't talk to the teachers ahead of time, paying God knows how much money for ballet classes, and they didn't have like a form to sign or, here's the stuff you have to be prepared to bring with you or anything like that? Oh, okay.
And they made me take out my slinky earrings. And it's like a slow death taking out accessories you're not supposed to be wearing.
I'm circling anecdote that probably never happened. I have a hard time believing this exactly is how things occurred. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
And as I looked at us all in line with my brown thighs glistening in the mirror, I heard that Sesame Street song in my head. One of these things is not like the other.
Uh-huh.
One of these things doesn't belong.
That sounds like a you problem. Just a little bit. I mean, and you were 11, so being self-conscious and all that kind of thing. Yeah, no, most kids don't feel like they belong, especially when they go to a new place. And I'll extend whatever the circumstances that you showed up not dressed to standard. Okay.
And when I got in the car with my mother, I lost it.
Oh.
I'd held it together for most of the day, but I went on and on about how I couldn't believe she sent me there and that I was never going back.
Wow, that's pretty ungrateful of you.
And my mother's response stripped in the resilience that Black moms coat everything in.
Not mothers, mind you, just Black moms. Okay.
You'll be fine. I'll get you what you need, but you're going back and you're lucky to be there, Sasha.
Yeah, only a Black mother would have said such things, I guess.
You're lucky to be there.
Yeah.
I wore this like a badge of honor in white spaces for most of my adolescence.
What is a white space? Tell me what a white space is. What is the definition? You wore that as a badge of honor. What? Your mother talking sense into you? What?
And it wasn't as if I didn't know I was Black or I wasn't proud to be Black.
It sure sounds like you're proud to be Black. I will grant you that one. It sure sounds like you knew and you were proud to be Black and still are. I don't disbelieve that for a second.
I love my family, but I was so proud to be this new and improved version of Black that I thought was so refined that white people couldn't help but let me into their spaces. And that I hoped by proximity to whiteness, I wouldn't have to deal with all the racial traumas Black folks have to endure every day.
So by promoting a racial standard of thinking about yourself and others, you hope to do away with racism? Okay, yeah. Keeverdam in the chat is correct. Collectivize his own demographic. She's done that a couple of times now, but I was just kind of letting it sit for a bit. Okay, I'm halfway considering also circling word salad because none of that train of thought made any sense to me, but I'll give it a minute.
I was bugging.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I elevated white normalcy and white supremacy. As a kid.
White supremacy. Well, she said the words. That goes on to the board. White normalcy, white supremacy as a kid. So as a kid, you were a white supremacist. Huh. Well, now that's not a confession you hear every day, but all right. Tell me more.
That's what internalized racism looks like.
Oh, okay.
And the brief reward of feeling like I belong is far outweighed by the damage I was doing to my spirit.
Okay, so the healthy thing to do is to always feel like an outsider, to consciously and willfully make yourself feel like you don't belong because of your race, because of other people's race is or whatever. That's the healthy way to go. That prevents the trauma. Mike R says white normalcy, new buzzword. No, I've heard white normalcy or, normalized whatever. Until she says something like something I like to call, or she tries to brand it as her own thing. Yeah, but I've heard phrases like white normalcy before, like heteronormative culture, white normative culture, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And by the time I got to college, I became sort of a time traveler and a stay-at-home historian.
Golly, what books were you reading in this stay-at-home time travel?
And I read everything I could, from books on slavery and slave rebellions and the Jim Crow era and civil rights movement, the Black Panthers, you name it, I read it.
Really? I name it, you read it? I don't think so. I think you had a singular focus in what you were reading about. Can't imagine why.
And reading Healed Wounds, I didn't know I had. I started to feel more like a whole person and less like a caricature.
Healed Wounds you did not know you had. You felt more like a person and less like a caricature. Do you understand that all of this you're talking about comes from you? That you are defining your own self-image throughout your life thus far? No one is doing this to you? Not sure if you get that one. El Vaquero 555. Hello.
And I moved back to my hometown of Middletown to raise my family. And Middletown's a very progressive and diverse college town. And we're in the last phases of building a state-of-the-art middle school to replace the middle school I went to, which was Woodrow Wilson Middle School.
I'm going to circle diversity and inclusion just because diverse, etc. Oh boy, microaggressions and conscious bias. Do you think we'll get that? Do you think in this talk we'll get something either directly or indirectly like that? I guess we'll find out. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. To be fair, 11-year-old girls are socially ruthless, but she didn't even mention what her classmates were like. First day jitters were probably widespread. Yeah, everything was aesthetic. It had nothing to do with interaction, had nothing to do with treatment. Everything had to do with she felt out of place, which I can understand, but she had to put the whole racial thing on it, which was, yeah, anyway. Let's see. Dr. Keeve, does implicit mean unconscious? No, did she say something implicit earlier? Did I miss that? Yeah, okay, well, we'll let it go a little bit. Inherently implied. Okay, well, if I'll wait and see if she says it directly. Remember, guys, anything that's not said directly, we will consider for aggregate content as things proceed, so it's all right.
Now, if you know his history, he was a proud racist and died never seeing the error of his ways. So,
oh, it took me a second. I was like, Woodrow Wilson, the school you went to, the Woodrow Wilson school. Okay, yeah, Woodrow Wilson. Yes, okay.
It seemed like a no-brainer. New school, new building, new name.
Did they keep the name? Did they keep the name Woodrow Wilson on the school? Uh-oh. So
I joined the naming committee, which was going to be a group of community members that were going to explore some name options for the school. And I'm totally invested in this because my only son is going to be part of the first classes to attend the school. And I want a name that's worthy of him.
You wanted a name worthy of him. I wonder what your deciding criteria would have been in figuring out by whom to name it after. I can't think of what your filtering criteria might have been.
And Woodrow Wilson Middle ain't it. Now, side note, I've now graduated from that lucky to be here narrative to new and improved, you're lucky to have me mentality.
Okay, well, I'm not conceited. I'm convinced. Okay, well, I know where we're going now a little bit. Thank you.
And it doesn't always translate well.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine it doesn't translate well? I can't even.
Not gonna lie, but this is where I am. I'm claiming my space in honor of my parents and my children.
No. Don't hide behind your parents. Don't hide behind your kids. This is you. This is your ego. This is your narcissism. This is your self-supremacy talking here. Do not try to dilute your choices and your decisions by putting other people in front of you. Do not.
And I'm coming as a whole person. No halvesies, not divided. One body, one Black American soul.
Okay. I am thus edified by your attitude towards the world. Proceed.
So when I get to that first meeting, I go directly to a table where the committee was already sitting down.
Why wouldn't you? You join the naming committee. Would you not go to the table where the committee is? Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Please tell me it's the Kunta Kinte Middle School. Oh, boy. I'm guessing, let's see. I haven't watched this. I'm going to guess either Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, or maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Those are the two names that come to mind. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. There's a distinct personality type in these TEDx's. It does vary one to another. Our last speaker on the previous TEDx had a similar outlook on the world. But everybody can be, we've had plenty of people who have been self-hatred people. We've had plenty of people who are just generally good people that just have some kooky ideas. It all depends.
And there were two women of color already there.
That was important to you, I'm sure.
Before I could even exchange pleasantries with them, from behind me, this voice smacked me in the back of the neck. This was supposed to be a diverse committee.
What? Okay, she kind of muffled her mouth there. This was supposed to be a diverse committee? Is that what she said? Or she quoted I'm assuming a Karen as saying?
This isn't a good representation of us. It was that loud and that intentional.
Well, speaking out loud is usually fairly intentional. What?
So I was like, wow, okay, duly noted. And behind me is a group of older white men and women, and it becomes abundantly clear not everybody's excited about this name change like I am.
Ooh, out of that one statement? Okay, I already circled diversity and inclusion, Mike. I already got that one circled. Okay, well, let's go over the card real quick. So I am going to circle mind reading assumes motives with that one right there because she just did. And, in small aggregate parts over the course of the thing. Okay, so what do we have so far? I have circled so far, anecdote that probably never happened, collectivizes own demographic, white supremacy, plays victim, free space, mind reading assumes motives, diversity and inclusion, and childhood or family anecdote. That's what I have circled so far. We might be on the verge of circling microaggressions. And if so, you know what happens then. And for reference, for those of you that might be joining late, we're using bingo card B. B is in bonnet. So let's proceed. I have a feeling we might just hit a bingo in a second here.
And it was for a bunch of reasons. One of the main ones was that it would be erasing history. Which,
Okay, what is this? What they said, or is this what you assumed of them? I know I already circled assumed motives, etc., but all the same, we're still in the process of this.
was so ironic to me because Black people's contributions to this country have been crucial to our success. Yet they often have gone not written, minimized, hidden, and yes, erased. So you got to miss me with your erasing history speech.
So, I don't have an erasing history speech. I'm not particularly concerned about the name change of a school deleting Woodrow Wilson from history. I think he's kind of set, as most presidents are, good, bad, or otherwise. Interesting that did somebody bring that up at the meeting? Did somebody say that to you, or are you just sort of making things up by any chance?
So when I went home that night, I was livid.
Did someone make that argument to you? Is that what happened?
And I posted publicly about my experience at that first meeting.
Okay.
And I know that doesn't always go well, but I couldn't pretend to not hear and feel what I felt that day.
What did you hear? I don't have any particular concern about your feelings because that's all you, but what did people actually say? So far, you've talked in abstracts about this meeting. Did somebody say, I'd rather keep the name because it's tradition or because it's local or because whatever? Is that what it was? And you just didn't buy that? Did you take that as a personal insult or something?
And all those years of it quietly ignoring implicit and explicit biases.
Uh-oh! Uh-oh! What did she say? Oh my God. You know what that means, guys. Unconscious bias. I believe it is.
Bingo.
What? Of course!
It's our first bingo. Diagonal down from the left to the right. We have our first bingo. Oh boy, we're on our way, guys. We're on our way. We're actually just about halfway through the video. Oh, who knows what's going to happen next? Oh, can we hit 2? Can we hit more? Let's continue.
Like that.
Uh-huh. Wait. That was an unconscious bias. Somebody was saying this place is not diverse. You didn't even explain what that meant because you said you walked in the room. And I'm going off of the common definition of diversity these days, which is non-white, etc. So you walked in the room. There were already, 2 or 3 women of color already at the table. So that would make you the 3rd or the 4th. I forget exactly how many there were. And then they said a thing which didn't make any sense. And you didn't explain why that didn't make sense or made sense. And then you sort of posited an argument someone made and decided to take it in a way that had nothing to do with race, but you decided to make it about race. And then you went home and complained on the internet about it. I'm circling word salad. I think we've had plenty of examples now of that, so I'm circling word salad. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Bingo. Yes, our first bingo. Probably more to come at this rate.
Explicit biases.
Yes.
Like that have made me who I am now.
No. You made you who you are now. At every point along the way so far, your evolution into the person you are now, the person where you're lucky to have me here kind of person, has been the choices you've made. You are not the product of oppression. You are the product of your own choices, as you've told us yourself throughout this talk. Everything that was done badly to people you have talked about has been examples from the past, not you. So, yeah.
Have made me who I am now. And it wasn't that I didn't feel like, of course they had the right to feel how they felt.
Oh, did they? But
some of them were truly nostalgic.
But
what was so confusing to me is they also stood hand in hand with those who cruelly mocked us for just wanting better for our kids.
What? Wanting better for our kids? naming a school Woodrow Wilson versus naming it anything else. I think you may have elevated this naming committee thing to a far higher echelon than it necessarily deserves, and attributed it with an importance in racial terms that it definitely does not. But okay.
And then somehow the burden falls on me to figure out who's who when I'm seeing a oneness and a sameness in this group.
The burden falls on you. Oh no. Oh God. Won't somebody please think of our speaker? She's the only one soldiering forth to do the right thing, to do the virtuous thing against this sea of sameness. Oh no.
So anyway, the post worked and people reached out and they wrote op-eds and they showed up for public forums.
What exactly? Okay, leaves out vital context. She hasn't given us any details on who said what. She's given us a bunch of abstractions. She didn't tell us what she put in the post, what her argument was, what her complaint was, nothing. What her, like, was her suggestion like denied out of hand because, oh, we can't put that person's name on the building because they're XYZ PDQ? No. And tell us nothing. I have no idea what's going on. So it leaves out vital context.
Pre-COVID, of course, and in support of this name change.
Name change to what? All we know is you didn't want it named again Woodrow Wilson Elementary School, or middle school. So what was your suggestion? What were you championing that wasn't being given support that you thought it deserved? Hey.
It was great until it wasn't.
Oh.
And those pro-Woodrow Wilsoners demanded that I be removed from the committee.
Because obviously they were all racists, right? It's not that you went in there with an attitude of, you're lucky to have me here, and I'm taking the burden on of doing the thing for the best of my kids, and da-da-da-da. You didn't go in there with an attitude and act like you own the place and try to dominate the meeting. I'm sure none of that actually happened. Did the entire committee do it? Was it only the white members? Because you said there were people there that weren't white. So was it all drawn down racial lines?
Because I didn't like the tone of my post.
What did you say in your post? If you're not going to tell us what you said in your post, we have no way of telling or assessing for ourselves. Well, did you make threats? Did you name names? Did you insult people? Or did you say something completely reasonable? And then the people at the committee had an unreasonable reaction. I don't know. I'm glad I circled leave out vital context. Thank you, Matt Barnes. She turned this naming committee gig into soccer mom drama hour. Changed my mind. I won't even make the effort because it sure sounds like it.
Which was absurd and didn't happen.
What? I got to back up because I got to find out what's absurd and didn't happen. Thank you, Chicago Mike. So they can name the school Robert E. Lee. Oh boy, I'm dying to know what the school eventually got named. Honestly, I would really like to know if she ever decides to tell us or what her idea was. Okay, I backed up a little bit because I needed context into her last statement.
Joe Wilsoners demanded that I be removed from the committee because I didn't like the tone of my post, which was absurd and didn't happen.
Wait, what was absurd and didn't happen? Because you said you made a post. Was their complaint absurd? I mean, their complaint happened. The post happened. So what didn't happen? You have to tell us what you said in your post. What? Okay, if I hadn't already circled word salad, I'd be circling it again. You're not making any sense. You have to tell us what was in the post. We cannot assess the outcome of these events without having the information necessary to assess it. The fact that you're not telling us what you said in your post, the fact that you are generalizing whatever happened at that committee meeting makes your situation, as you claim it to be, very suspect. And I said suspect, not sus, because sus is now a banned word, guys. We learned that last night on Lords of the Night. All right.
So they took it a step further.
Oh.
And they contacted my employer.
What did you say? What did you say in this post? Okay, I know she's not going to tell us at this point. If she hasn't told us now, she's not going to. But man, between whatever happened at that meeting and whatever she said in that post, I am dying to know. I'm dying to know what that post said.
To let them know that I said all white people were racist. They wanted to know if my company agreed with that standpoint. They wanted to know if I had any white clients, because of course they needed to be alerted.
Did you say that all white people are racist? Did you put that in your post?
And they signed it a concerned parent.
Yeah.
They threatened my livelihood over a lie because they were threatened by me.
Was it a lie? Because so far throughout this entire talk, you've done nothing but heavily imply, if not outright state, that you have a high level of antipathy for white people, simply on the basis of them being white. So I could believe that you're racist against white people and would say that all white people are racist. Did you say that in the post? If you did not say that in the post, did you say that at the meeting? Now, I am not going to endorse contacting her employer. Short of there having been something about her nature of her work or something, not knowing what was in the post, I can't say for sure, but there's absolutely no reason for her employer to be contacted. Okay, so whoever did that, they're an asshole. They're not helping anything. Just want to make that clear. But that's beside the point to me for the sake of this story, because the effect of what her post had, irrational and unreasonable as it is, doesn't tell me what was in the post, does not tell me what happened at the meeting. Thank you, Matt Barnes. My money's on Gil Scott Heron Middle School at this point, and she yelled about racism in her post. Oh, you've okay, you looked it up? Okay, because I was going to have to look it up after the fact. The fact that she's not telling us, she's not putting up like a card or a screen or something that has the content of her post on there for us to see. Very odd, but then maybe it's just the production value of this event. Okay, so your employer was contacted. That's completely out of bounds. I agree.
And I haven't mentioned that I'm a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
And the home ownership gap between Black and white Americans in this country is larger now than it was in 1960.
Whoa. Okay, we just hit another set of tracks on this train. What? Now we're into home ownership disparities. Okay, that was a sudden change of pace.
When it was actually legal to discriminate against us.
Are we going to go back to your job being attacked? Or the naming committee? Are we going to find out what the school was named? So
yeah, most of my clients are white people.
Oh, that's where that was going. Oh, okay. So most of your clients are white people. So you're helping the demographic that you're angry at for owning more homes by helping them find homes. So, thank you, Matt Barnes. Sorry, Scribe, I didn't look it up. That was part of my bet. Oh, sorry. Oh, my apologies. My money's on. Oh, okay. I thought you'd done some research or something. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Appreciate it. You didn't have to. That's fine. Boy, this is something else. Okay, so you're facilitating the increase of white supremacy in the housing market, but it's something that you rail against because of the. I don't know where we are right now. Keeverdam, weightless example. I'm going to give it a minute, but probably, yeah.
And as that concerned parent wanted to let me know, I need white people to like me.
That sounded vaguely childlike.
But not at the expense of my truth or my spirit, because I'm not doing that anymore.
So you don't care if white people like you, except if they're clients who can further your career. Okay. Is that what you meant to say? Because that's what it sounds like you just said.
But I was scared. I work for a high-end luxury brokerage that, for a second, when I signed that contract with them, I wondered if I was good enough to work for them.
That is a you problem.
Because even in my mid-40s, I have to be cognizant of not internalizing those questions of my worth in spaces that don't reflect me.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wowie, wow, wow. Right, Dog, Cat, Fox? Wowie, wow, wow. This lady has some deep-seated self-image issues entwined with her racism. It's kind of disturbing, honestly.
So when my broker called me to let me know about this email, I thought I was going to lose my job.
Did you? I hope you didn't. Again, contacting her work, not cool.
But luckily for me, she stood in the pain, in the rage of that moment, and she had my back.
Was your boss a white person by any chance? And if so, why would she have done that based on your version of reality that you've spent the last 11 minutes telling us about?
And she dismissed that email.
Uh-huh.
But after talking to my family...
After talking to your family. Thank you, Dark Resurrect. Howdy, Scribe. I'll catch the replay. Is she okay? That is a philosophical question that I'm not sure I'm in a position to answer at this moment. We'll see.
We realized this was just going to get worse. And I decided it would be best if I stepped down from the committee.
Okay. First and foremost, again, emails to employer, stupid. She hasn't told us what happened. She hasn't given us the text of her post. So as far as her position within the committee, the email to her employer set aside, I'm not sure that was necessarily some sort of self-sacrificial move on her part, without making everything seem like she's a victim. But okay.
But about a week later, an old classmate reached out, and she was so excited because she was going to be submitting a name to the naming committee, and she was collaborating with a Wesleyan professor on this.
Okay, so by proxy, you got the name inserted into the selection committee that you wanted, I'm guessing. Thank you, Scanner Daphne. I think she is fibbing. I have serious reasons to doubt the content of some of her story thus far. I'll be diplomatic and put it that way. Also, I'm going to circle weightless example. I agree with Kiever Dam. That whole housing gap thing in the middle of it all didn't make any sense to anything, especially in context to the statements and the story she was telling. Yeah.
I remember being crazy dismissive of her.
Why?
During this call, because I felt helpless. Like, what?
You felt over naming a school, over not being on a naming committee for an elementary school. Is that okay? I'm backing up just a little. I did cut her off.
Wesleyan professor on this.
Yeah.
I remember being crazy dismissive of her during this call because I felt helpless.
Yeah.
Like, what was I going to do?
I don't know. Suggest a name. What name did you have in mind when you were on the committee? You never told us.
But I couldn't unhear what she said that day.
What'd she say?
And it echoed for days.
What'd she say?
It was Beeman Middle. And you're all looking at me like, who the hell are the Beemans? So I'll explain.
Okay.
The Beemans are a family of Black abolitionists. Caesar Beeman gained his freedom by fighting in its master's place in the Revolutionary War.
Wait. So the name selection committee, who was standing hand in hand with racists to support retaining the Woodrow Wilson name, in your absence, which you so sacrificially undertook, settled on the name of a family of Black abolitionists. I'm going to circle contradicts own point or argument because, yeah, I just think I should. Thank you, Tall Person. Happy Swiss Cheese Day. We'll watch in full later. Tall Person, your declaration is full of holes. Womp, 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 womp.
They were actively involved in the Underground Railroad. They moved to Middletown. They bought land and subdivided it and sold it off to other freed slaves.
Okay, good for them.
I know. I had to pivot.
Pivot? Oh, pivot was another one of those banned words from last night. You had to pivot to what? What were you fighting for when you went to the committee meeting? What was your idea? You never told us. Just that you didn't want Woodrow Wilson's name on the school. Like, it is going to be an enduring mystery to me as to what happened at that committee meeting and also what was in her post that started all of this.
And I actually learned in the process that it's Common Council who has final naming authority over all city-owned property.
Oh, okay. So you didn't do any research and you didn't. So the naming committee was just sort of an advisory thing to give suggestions to the council. So, okay.
Process that it's Common Council has final naming authority over all city-owned property. So they became my focus. And I worked with friends in the community and even my oldest daughter to get people who had the same shared vision for the town that we had. And I have to say the end results were the most diverse group of people ever elected together in city history.
What? Wait, so when you found out it was not the naming committee's power to name the school, after you went on the committee and after you were driven out, then you found out that they were effectively just an advisory committee for the Common Council, which I'm guessing is the city attorney or something. I don't know. You focused on that, and then with your daughter, you got the most diverse elected. What?
And it included our first Black councilwoman.
Oh, and that's really important to you, of course, because that means something about her politics, her ability to govern, and so on. You know, okay.
It was historic.
So wait, so hold on. This went from a naming committee for a middle school to you helping get elected a Black woman to office. I feel like we've missed several steps in between these events. Is it just me? Holy cats. Mr. Tickletrunk, thanks so much. She's fighting in an imaginary war she thinks is real. Social constructionists think school names are literally changing our thoughts and the world. Yeah. I mean, Woodrow Wilson's name on the school is like some kind of inscribed curse on the mummy's tomb or something. And that putting a name of anybody else on there is a purification, I guess. It's very, very bizarre, very aesthetic, if you think about it, which actually kind of fits.
And that day could only be topped by one thing for me.
I can't imagine.
On August 3rd, 2020.
August 3rd of, now last year. Okay.
That Common Council voted to name our new middle school Beeman Middle.
Wow. What an accomplishment for you as as somebody who had nothing to do with it, since they called you up to tell you that that was the one they were pushing for in the first place. Not the one you suggested, because you never told us what you suggested. You had nothing to do with this. Unless I'm missing something. Did you get someone voted into office who then turned the tide on naming the school? I'm not making the connection. I'm missing something here, obviously.
Caesar Beeman picked his own name instead of keeping a slave name.
Good for him. That's something he did. Good. And?
Beeman. Be a man.
Okay.
The school in a predominantly white town in Connecticut is named after a former enslaved man so intentional in claiming his humanity that he picked a name to reflect that desire.
So are the white people in that town not racist now? Did his name being inscribed on that school cleanse that town of all the inherent racism you have heavily implied or outright stated white people possess? What does that mean at all? The actions of a man who's long dead and certainly admirable. What does that have to do with anything?
I felt like I won something.
You won nothing. You won nothing. But you feeling like you won something says quite a bit.
Like my family had won something. Our
You,
community had tapped into that shared responsibility to elevate and tell these stories of these great Black American heroes.
Greatness by proxy. I'm curious to know, of all the people that decided this school name thing, anybody in that process was white? I mean, did the council of the city or whatever, who suggested that name? Was it, I kind of, maybe I missed it. Was it that phone call? They called you up to tell you, hey, we're going to do this, or this is the name we're suggesting. I'm still very muddled on the process here. But regardless, our speaker had nothing to do with it. The name was suggested when she wasn't on the committee. She didn't know the procedures of actually getting something named. It happened after the fact. And somewhere in there, she got somebody elected to office, she says. I have a hard time believing that, but anyway.
And I mean, with 2020, I needed this. With protests heard all over the world, and after the murder of George Floyd, our mayor created an anti-racism task force.
Your mayor created an anti-racism task force. Oh, wow. Did they come knocking on your door by any chance? I have a feeling not, but anyway.
And I'm proud to say that I was appointed co-chair.
You're co-chair of the anti-racism task force after telling us for 14 minutes about the difference between white spaces and your feelings about Black identity. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Scribe, we all know those people are still racist unless they've announced their anti-racist stance. No. I mean, that's the thing about the anti-racism movement, and I'm not being facetious here. Racism is the constant. Racism is the original sin. You're either racist or anti-racist. You are not racist. There's no such thing as not being racist. There's either being in denial of your racism and acting out in a racist manner, or being in confession of your racism and acknowledging that you're forever going to be pitiful and wretched and terrible. That's the anti-racism creed. I'm not even kidding. Thank you, formerly Rod Line. I think she was happy white the town's kids would go to a school named after a Black man. Probably. I mean, like I said, she's a racial identitarian. So thank you, Chicago Mike. Wrong think task force. Pretty much. especially if she is the co-chair of the anti-racism task force. Oh boy.
And the work continues.
Uh-huh.
There's so much work to
Oh,
do.
I'm sure, because it's a never-ending battle. Lexi Mad says, Scribble, here's what a lot of residents in Middletown had to say. Quote, some of them feel they just weren't heard, he said. Some of them felt that some of them felt they were racist if they didn't agree. Many don't feel that way. They just feel left out of it, unquote. The naming of the school? Yeah. Imagine if you opposed that or had a different suggestion that wasn't a black person. Can you imagine being called a racist for that? Under an anti-racism committee, seconded by our speaker? I think I could believe it.
But the work we're doing in Middletown will be transformative to the next generation of kids.
Oh, you know what? I absolutely agree with you. I 100% agree with you. The kind of mentality, the kind of racial hatred and bias that you're promoting in that town as adults will definitely have an effect on the next generation.
All kids. I really feel like it could be done anywhere.
Yeah, that's the scarier thought these days. Yeah.
And when I look at this now viral image of President-elect Kamala Harris.
Uh-huh.
Walking into the White House.
Okay.
In the shadows of a 6-year-old Ruby Bridges, who was also a first when she integrated schools in New Orleans in the 1960s.
Oh, so Kamala Harris is being associated with someone who she's not and who is long gone and did something that Kamala Harris never did. You want to talk about Kamala Harris's record on law enforcement by any chance? At all? You want to comment on her comments and statements towards Joe Biden, the guy she's now vice president to, during the debates? And how now she's working for that man? You want to say anything about that? Okay.
We are all in the shadows of those who come before us, and we have a shared responsibility to clear the path for those that come after us. And when I think about my son walking into Beeman Middle in the shadows of the Beeman family, I can't tell you how excited that makes me.
Wow. Yeah, I guess your son is just blessed by the name of the school that you had almost nothing with doing to put there, but that was the bulk of your story. Oh, okay. The Beeman family accomplished quite a bit. They did a lot of things that are very admirable. So far, I haven't heard anything that you've said as being anywhere near that kind of admirable.
And when I sit with all the sacrifices that were made so I can be who I am now.
No. You have chosen who you are. You are who you choose to be. Yes, that's a quote from the Iron Giant, but it remains true. You are not a product of the Beeman family. You're not a product of anyone but yourself at this point. You've made the choices to be who you are. And you're promoting the philosophy that defines the kind of person that you are.
Which is unapologetically Black in all spaces.
Yeah.
I have to say, my mother was right.
Oh.
I am lucky to be here. Thank you.
I thought we were lucky to have you here. Okay. Well, now, let us move on to the bingo card. Is that showing up in the window? Yes, it is. All right. So that's what I have so far. Let's go over it, shall we? Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, at no point did I have any notion that our speaker thought poorly of herself. Systemic institutional. In aggregate, I don't think it is deniable, given the fact that she also talked about, the committee, the town, etc., white supremacy, systems thereof, and so on that she was contributing to, and on and on and on. So I think I'm not too far afield here when I say,
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
double bingo so far, but there may be more. Let's continue. A list. I can't recall that she gave us a formal list. Maybe I missed it. Okay. Privilege. I don't think she ever said the word. I don't think so. Now, there's plenty there to imply it, but I'll wait and see if anybody has an argument in the chat. Equity. No, she never said that. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. No, that never happened. Wage gap. No. And I'm not going to take the housing gap thing because we already used that for waitlist example. So wage gap. No. Patriarchy. She didn't bring up men save for just the name of Woodrow Wilson. I didn't sense any patriarchy there. Feminism. No. I mean, she talked about electing the first black woman to a position in the city. I forget what it was, city council or something, but she never really talked about the gender wars in any particular way. Marginalization. There's an argument for implication there. I'll leave it sit for the moment. Making something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. I never heard what a white space was. And I know that sounds like leaving out vital context, but by bringing up white and not giving us a reason as to why she's calling these things white, yeah, that's making race about something for no reason, as far as I could tell. And benevolent condescension. Yeah, at the end there, where her son could walk into the school and somehow the name was going to embolden him because he had no, if the school had been named Snoopy Middle School or something, that her son would not. Yeah, I can't quite help myself but circle that one. If for no other reason than her attitude explicitly stated throughout this. So with that,
Bingo. What? Of course!
We have a triple bingo. But now, with the card sitting where it is, I will take arguments from the chat. Be sure to tag me in there. It's Keeverdam. For self-vilification. At the start of this, she said she wasn't mad at her parents because they didn't deserve it. She was mad at herself since she deserved it because reasons. Oh, but was that... Here's the only reason I'm a little hesitant. That sounded humble brag-ish. She wasn't actually diminishing herself. She was using that just as an opener to pretend like somehow she evolved. Does that make sense? That's my feeling on it. Keeverdam, let me know what you think about that, and we'll come back to it. Check your logic. Scribelight, I would say she insulted the legacy of Ruby Bridges, but Bridges herself is a Harris supporter. Yeah, like I say, I don't know. I don't know why bringing up Kamala Harris at the end. I mean, just because she's black, because Ruby Bridges is a famous black woman. It's like, okay. I mean, we know where her mind is at. If someone is the right skin color, then they are worthy of praise and promotion and celebration. If they're not of the right skin color, then forget it. It just, what's his face and whatnot. She was lying, but it was still self-vilification, Scribelight. Okay, so we're going for the literal interpretation of the words, not necessarily the spirit of their use. Is that it? Okay. All right, chat. I'm on the fence on that one. Do I circle it on the literal use of example / language that she used? or not? Because is the question is, does the speaker have to, at least for the sake of the presentation, seem to be sincerely vilifying themselves? Or can it be something that's just used as a rhetorical device without actually having to believe the person believes it? So if you think I should circle self-vilification, put a 1 in the chat. If you think not, put a 2. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Remember, the question is it about the sincerity of the use for the sake of this square? 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. I'm on the fence. 2, 2. 1, 2. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. 5, 2. Yeah. I mean, again, I was on the fence too, and it is a legitimate question. You know, can self-vilification, wretchedness, just be a device rather than something that we believe the speaker is expressing of themselves? So we're setting precedent here. I appreciate everybody thinking about it. Okay, so not going to circle it on that basis. Thank you guys so much. So anybody got anything for a list or privilege or equity, marginalization? I'm kind of open to that one, just on aggregate. Let's see, tough choice, blarg. Feigned vilification. Yeah, it's not in the square. It's not in the square. So I guess it is up to interpretation, but we're kind of setting precedent as we go here. It's a good question though. Mike R, white privilege. I mean, I'm willing to circle that just because it doesn't give us a bingo automatically, and in the aggregate of what she was talking about throughout this, especially the home ownership and all that kind of thing, I'm fine circling that one. So there we go. We got privilege on the board too. I'll accept that one. No one nowhere. Marginalized at ballet. Ooh. Ooh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Chicago Mike says buzzword white space. It may be, I've heard white spaces many times in the past. That's not her. That's not her doing. Okay, marginalization. All right. Yeah, not too. I'm willing to do that one too. All right. But I think unless somebody has a really good argument elsewise for one of the other ones, I think that might be it for this one, guys. So I'll give it another minute here or two, and then we'll wrap this up. Scribelight, history lesson, new bingo square. No, that's a bit too broad. Anybody talking about a historical event in passing would suddenly get that square, and that seems a bit of a low bar in my head. Small man, white normative culture, code switch for buzz new word, buzzword. Did she said white normalcy, and it was somebody asked at that time if white normalcy was a new buzzword, buzz phrase. But again, there has to be something more to it. It has to be used more than once. It has to sound unique, and it also helps if they say something like, you know, something I like to call, or a phrase I use, or something like that. They have to take ownership of it, that they're trying to promote it, and she only used that phrase once. Doesn't really count. Zach Osborne, Scribelight, what about that code thing she said a few times about how she talks differently depending on who she's talking to? Code switching is not new to her. Code switching is a phrase that's been around for quite a while, so I can't attribute that to her. She's using relatively common phrases. So, nobody, not me. Her whole talk was a list of grievances. Yeah, but no. She would have to like start ticking off things like, you know, this, and this on her fingertips or something, or going over something. Yeah, it just didn't quite click there. Let's see. Dr. Keeve, too bad she didn't list off all the black people killed by cops aside from George Floyd. That would have been a list, and that would have got us a 4th bingo. But everyone, I think we are at the end of this TEDx talk and this bingo card, but it was not all for naught. We have 3 bingos, which is a nice way to start off the new year, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to call that there, guys. thank you, everyone, for joining me for this one. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you so much for your participation and your deliberation. It's always very vital to how we do these things, and your thoughtful analysis and commentaries. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it, especially at this time of year, and it's most especially in the state of the world as it is. If you would like to hear more from me or the Ranting Monkey or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find all three of us tonight on the Ranting Monkeys channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where we will talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me. Chicago Mike, thank you so much for the Dog Cat Fox. Good job. You see that? He said good job. Wowie, wow, wow. Dog Cat Fox approves. Yeah, where was I? Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.